Hi guys, I think we're live. You guys can probably hear me. Started it a couple minutes early just to make sure that we were good to go. Um, Admit, oh, there she is. All right. I don't need that. And there she is. Hey, Kim. Oh, wait, I can't hear you at all. Oh, now I can hear you. At least I heard that breath.
All right. Hey, Tom, let me. Sorry.
No worries. It was a couple minutes early, so kind of sprung it on you.
No, it's all right. I was here.
Good.
Oops, shutting my sound off.
Oops.
There we go.
Got like 900 buttons here, and I don't know which one to push. Actually kind of want to thank you because you pushed me to learn how to use this interface, which I had never used before.
I didn't push you to do anything.
Well, true. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant
You
like
could choose.
this situation has pushed me to learn this interface, which I needed to learn eventually anyways.
You know, just so you know, StreamYard is actually much more user-friendly. So
Cool. I'll keep that in mind.
and it's easier to link like your live streams and all that than Zoom is, I think.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
So good day. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's been a great start to the day. I guess we can just dive right into it here. Thank you for showing up. A lot of people thought that you wouldn't. I knew that you would because
That's exactly right.
yeah, I knew that you would. So welcome.
You know, I personally have nothing against you in any way. I mean, you put information out there for people that I thought was really, really valuable, including even myself in the beginning when I was just learning what this was all about. So
it's kind of an interesting thing to say, but we'll keep that in mind for later. But at the end of the day, I have nothing personally against you either. I have a big problem with people doing what you do, which is creating this backstory and selling people on this idea that somehow you can, save them. And, I'm going to give you time to speak to everything that I have to say. This is going to be a format that, you kind of should be familiar with, where I'm going to kind of lay out a case and then give you the opportunity to speak to everything that I had just said. And then from there, if the debate end of things is necessary, or we want to debate from there, then away we go. But I've the only reason I ever became known in this community, the only reason you ever read my blog or anyone else did, was because there was a person before you named Corey Good who basically ran this same type of idea, where what Corey did was he was a person who was just, a regular member on Project Avalon, and he was digesting all this information. He was following different people, and he took that story and he added his own little personal bits to it, and he blew it up into this fiction that became, the Blue Avians, the Sphere Being Alliance, everything that came along with it. And I know that firsthand because at the time I was talking with David Wilcock on a regular basis, and I was the first person he asked to do cosmic disclosure. I refused because I didn't want to be public, because a lot of, let's call it, hurt comes along with, making yourself public in that way, especially with the background that I have had. And I didn't really want to do that. And it's pretty well known that when I wrote the blog, it wasn't intended to blow up into what it was. And the only reason that it did do so was because of the cosmic disclosure and Corey's Blue Avian nonsense, which, going back to when you and I first spoke, you were also very much on the same page that, that was all nonsense and exactly what he was doing. And so basically the premise of this is I believe you're doing the same thing. And going back to, the first time you ever contacted me, you let in with, having access to these secret funds and all this money and being trustee of all these accounts and all of that stuff, which I know very well is just non-existent. Like, that's not even how money is made in the world. Not to mention, pretty much every country has a different financial system. So for the idea of like one person to have, some type of control over all of it is pretty fucking insane. In case you don't notice, there have been wars fought in our world over stuff like you're claiming doesn't, you're claiming doesn't exist, which clearly does. There are different denominations of money. There's different banking systems. There's a bunch of different banks. So the idea that like one person controls all of that is a little bit insane if you know anything about the way that money is created and used. The next thing you had let in with me was about this character that you had called M by the letter M. And now I know someone who goes by M, but it's not the letter M. And so that was the first indication to me that what you were saying was not truthful. And from there, I told you how I felt. I told Thomas how I felt, that I wasn't buying it, that it goes against all of my experience and everything that I know. And then I kind of took a hiatus from this entire little world for my own personal reasons. When I came back, I started getting sent these links from various shows that Thomas was doing with you. And, a bunch of them had, first of all, at face value appeared like nonsense, and in time now have ended up being nonsense, such as the Universal Protection Unit, where you and two other ladies went on and pretended like you were fucking aliens so that you could convince that audience that somehow this Universal Protection Unit was coming to save them, which obviously was not true. Both of those women have now kind of come out, not necessarily against you, but come out on their own in such a way that kind of proves that you orchestrated that whole thing. And obviously, no Universal Protection Unit has shown up to save us. And from there, to be honest, I don't listen to stuff in this community, which I know you're well aware of, and anybody who knows me is well aware of. But I was sent a bunch of clips from your shows with Thomas of things like, say, taking out 19 Asian assassins and, various things of
that wasn't me, by the way.
That was Thomas?
No. I live in a town that is what you call a zone. So what a zone, are you familiar with zones?
But at the time, you weren't even where you are right now. You were in Florida. So just, again,
I've never been to Florida since 2000 and...
Like when it came out. I know.
No, dear. I have not traveled to, I swear, I have not traveled to Florida since 2000 and my daughter was 5. So 2006 was the last time I was in Florida. And I was there to take an exam for my banking license. But long before I even entered.
Well, there's a bunch of evidence online that proves that is incorrect, because you have been in Thomas's house in Florida, and there are
never have been,
including Thomas. Okay. I mean,
nope.
That's a flat out lie, and we both know it. And
no, that's not a lie. I have never been to Thomas. Where's the pictures? Do you have pictures? Do you have proof?
Once again, I thought you were used to these type of discussions, right? So you should allow me to finish like I asked you to do in the first place, correct?
Oh, yes, because I work for you. I forgot.
See what I mean, people? Anyways, no, that's not what I'm saying. But if you were in a legal proceeding right now, the prosecution would get to lay out their case, and you're not allowed to speak again. So please, when I am done, I will let you know, and you are welcome to refute whatever I said at that point.
Okay.
So from there, what I have received is a lot of different people who have come forward and been like, oh, I donated X amount of dollars, I donated this amount of dollars, I donated that amount of dollars, and all based on your claim that apparently you've had access to this money and we're going to give it back to them. But of course, that has never happened, right? It's been 4 or 5 years now. You still have not delivered a dime back. And so where I will leave this at, with all of that in mind, is that a lot of people believe that I vetted you, including Thomas. And the reason why Thomas gave you the platform that he gave you was because he believed that I did, and I never did. The other reason Thomas gave you the platform that he did was because he was attracted to you, which I know you heard me say and have now admitted publicly. So that much we can both agree on. And without that foundation, Kim, the Speak Project would not be interested in you. Nobody would have been interested in you because you had no foundation to stand on, right? It's like building a house. If the house doesn't have a foundation, the house is kind of useless, correct? So there you go. Therefore, if your foundation is all taken away and that, I didn't vet you. Thomas only gave you a platform because of his feelings towards you, which are more physical than anything else, and his own ego as well added into that. Everything else that you had done up until your part with Thomas has been proven to be, well, nothing. Like, you've made all these claims, this was going to happen at this date, that date comes, and just like the David Wilcock playbook, at the 0 hour, I got blocked, and so stopped me from doing this and stopped me from doing that, right? And this runs up right up until today, where in our direct messages, you told me that you stopped the COVID ID tracking app.
I did not say that.
Do you want me to put it on screen for everyone to see? Because it's right here.
That's not what I said.
I've already posted it to my Facebook page. So yes, you did. And it's actually out there as evidence. So yes, you did.
Okay.
But once again, I'm not done, and I haven't told you that I'm done. So please, you can refute it afterwards. Anywho, so you said that to me, and then, first of all, what I knew was, we've had that app. We actually have 2 apps in Canada that are COVID tracking apps. One is for travel, one is for just local contact tracing. And those have been in place since like sometime between January and March of 2020. So if you stopped them last night, I mean, it's now 2021. What month is it? July. If you stopped those last night, then you would have needed a time machine, because those have already been in place for quite a while now. So there's a big fat flat out lie that you told me today, right? And then not only did you tell me that lie, but then I went to the gym, and on my way to the gym, guess what they had at the mall? Because the gym I go to is in a mall. They had brand new QR codes for the contacts tracing. They had a brand new sign-in system at my gym for COVID IDs. So all of that proves you wrong. And yet you let in with that about how Russian White Bear or something like that, I may have the name wrong, called you to congratulate you on your success of stopping something that was already in place. That doesn't make any sense. It shows you lied, flat out lied. So we now have, I vetted you as a lie. We now have Thomas backing you as a lie. We now have the UPU as a lie. And we now have Kim magically stopped the goddamn COVID ID last night as a lie. And so I sent you today our Canadian government's website showing that they literally updated the COVID ID tracking system today. And that's on the Canadian government's website. Anyone can go look at it. Nobody's hacked that shit. Nobody has faked that shit. Like, that's right there. Meanwhile, you let in on the day of telling me that you stopped that from happening. Mm-hmm. So all I see is this giant pile of lies that you keep pushing as if you've somehow done something, but there is no real world evidence for a goddamn thing you have said. And now you and I both, have this fantastic backstory that, anybody who's reasonable or intelligent would probably dismiss outright. And those people who may have some experience with this may consider it a little bit. And now I will admit, there's no way to prove what I've said. Just like, there would be no way to prove what you said if it were happening. But what does prove things over time is consistency, which you have clearly failed at. Character, which, I mean, anyone who's read the text messages between you and I just leading up to this will show that you don't have that either. And then 3 would be proof in the results. And there are 0 results to prove anything you've said correct. Whereas with me, any claims that I did make have real world results to back them up. And therefore, I feel like I am qualified to be the person who stands in front of you, because I know what I've been through, to stand in front of you to say, sweetie, I don't need to prove you are lying. You need to prove that you're telling the truth. And if you're going to continue to take money out of people, and you're going to continue to make these claims, then yes, you need to back it up somehow, not with a fake or fake genealogy charts, not with fake banking system pyramids, which are clearly incorrect. And anybody who knows anything about the financial system can see that they're clearly incorrect. Like my roommate, who doesn't even follow this stuff, could look at one of your charts and be like, yeah, that's not how it works, because that's not how it works. And the other thing is just the way you've treated people. Like even the back and forth in our messages, you know, 1 minute you're talking about how I'm an insider and I should know, and then the next minute you're calling me names. So it's like anybody who does question you or say anything about the lies that you're selling, you then turn around and try to character assassinate. I mean, that won't work for me because I have 10 years of dealing with people and I've been open to everybody and everybody knows exactly who the fuck I am. So you can't do that with me. So here we are now. And so what I'm asking you to do, you know, if you want to run your news station, you want to do that, then that's fine. But stop selling this idea that you're Eve. Stop selling this idea that you're in charge of all these mythological banking systems that you're not in charge of. And maybe just deal with the same integrity and honesty that all the other people, not all the other people, but the majority of the people who are watching this conduct themselves with. All right. So this has never been about me proving you to be a liar. This has been about you proving yourself not to be. And so now you have the floor and the opportunity to prove yourself not to be. And I will shut up for a while.
Thank you. So in February of 2016 is when I first met you. And I met you on a call with Thomas because you actually introduced me to Thomas.
That's not how we met. We talked one-on-one first, and then I introduced you to her.
Yes, that's correct. So I'm sorry, I misspoke. So I talked to you first, and you introduced me to Thomas. So if you're saying you didn't give me any credibility, why would you bring me on the phone with Thomas? Now, my turn, right? So that's how this all started. That's how I met Thomas Williams. And eventually we started talking a little bit more, and he was still with Cosmic Voice at that time until maybe a few months later, right? So that's how Thomas and I met. Now, he came here originally to visit me in May of 2017 with Chloe, okay, his girlfriend. And that was the first time I met them. And we had lunch, we chit-chatted about things, all three of us, and then he left, okay? So he went back to Florida, and I guess there was a kerfuffle, something with him and Chloe left. Now, I have not left Durango, Colorado since December 26th, 2016, when I arrived. I have not left this town other than to go to neighboring towns. So I have no plane ticket. I have no charges on my credit card. I didn't even have, a bank account again until probably the last couple of years. So I don't have any traveling to Florida. I didn't go to Florida. I've never been in Thomas's house. There should be no pictures unless they're photoshopped of me in Thomas's house. I do, however, have, which I can send to you because I didn't know this was a topic of conversation, a picture of myself, Chloe, and Thomas in Silverton, Colorado, the very first time I met him face to face. And I talked to Chloe for hours and hours and hours in 2016, and from February probably until everything started kind of getting a little rough there. So I talked to Chloe actually more than I talked to Thomas. Okay. Now, the app tracking. Okay. So COVID, as you had posted yourself on Facebook, right? That it was an ID tracking program. Now, an ID tracking program, COVID is related to nanobots and graphene oxide, and everybody's talking about it on the internet, and it's not just me. Okay. We all know that the way to implant these things into the body is with a virus, right? And the mRNA, what do you want to call it? Genetic manipulation operating system of humans, which is directly tied to, has been tied to the Azure cloud system, which is global and also based in Toronto, where you are. So the fact that they're tracking COVID numbers on a website, I mean, anybody can put, I've got 9 million viewers on a website, right? And
it's actually called an exposure app. And it's like, it's optional for Canadians, but the government put it out pretty quickly. And what it does is it tracks your whereabouts so that if you're exposed to COVID. I think
you're interrupting me, like you said, like that whole thing, you would yield. And
understood,
but so I'm just saying you're doing it. Is not like, what you said is not okay to do, you're now doing. So
But what
do
you're
you want to
saying
do?
is not correct. So I need to stop you in saying that that is not true. That's not how the app works at all. It's not. And
I'm
this
not
isn't
talking
just my
about the
opinion.
app.
You
I'm
are
not
the.
talking. No, I'm not.
Okay, I guess nobody
I'm
heard
not
you
talking
just
about
say
the
it.
rate of COVID infections nor the deaths of COVID. I'm talking about the vaccines that contain nanobots. That's
No,
what
we're
I'm
not. That's
talking
not what a
about.
COVID idea was, and that's not even what I posted about. What I posted about was the
I know
exposure app.
because you don't listen. See, you have bad
No, you're
listening.
not listening. You're making up something that didn't happen and doesn't exist. There's no such thing as a vaccine tracking app. There is a COVID exposure tracking app.
I'm not talking about an app. I'm talking about something different. So can I finish?
No, because you are talking about an app.
No, I'm
That's a-
not.
Are
No,
you
I'm
talking
not.
about what I was talking about? Because what I was
No,
talking about was an app.
nope.
Okay, then
I
what's
know.
your fucking point? Right? And this
Because
is
I'm
how a
not
pigeon
talking
plays
about,
chess.
you
This is
asked
how a
me
pigeon
what
plays
went away
chess.
last
I'm gonna
night.
shit on the board
And
and
I'm
you're gonna run
about to
around like I
answer
fucking.
you because,
No,
see,
you
the
didn't say
reason
it
why you're
last
talking
night.
over
Even
me
that
is
is
because I'm
incorrect.
about to prove you wrong. That's
No,
what
you're
every
not.
order guy does. Every agency does it because you don't actually want to hear me speak.
No, I want to
You,
hear you speak, but I want to hear you say things that are truthful. And you did not do this last night. You did this today. So
I
once that's
did.
wrong, and
Did
you were
I say
talking about the
app?
app,
Would you like to see the
it's
conversation?
yes, it is on Facebook. People who are in the chat have already read it. So you've already been
Does it
proven
say
wrong.
COVID app?
Yes, COVID ID. COVID ID
It says
tracking
COVID
system.
ID.
Exactly.
That is
which
not the
is an
same
app,
thing.
Which is
That's
an
not
app.
the same thing.
It is an app, Kim. It exists in Canada. You can't tell all of Canada that what they have on their fucking phones does not exist. You understand
I was
that?
talking about the transhuman program that Microsoft is running out of Azure.
No.
That's what I was talking about.
No, because none of
Yes,
that is even real.
I
That's
was.
something you made up as part of your fiction. What is real is the COVID ID tracking app, which has to do with a COVID exposure and has been in place long before apparently you said it didn't. You stopped it.
Anybody ever heard of this? Since I'm going to get interrupted, birth certificate bonds. Anyone?
What does
Has
that have
anybody
to do
ever
with
heard
the
of that?
conversation at all? Everyone has heard about that, but what does that have to do with these conversations?
I'm going to write it down since you can. That way you can't interrupt it.
You can continue to write down things that have nothing to do with this, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, but what does it have to do with a COVID ID? What does that have to do with what I posted, which is what you were commenting on?
Every
Because
human
what I
gets a
posted
number
was not that. What I posted was not that.
because you didn't listen.
No, because I posted it, you commented on what I posted, and then you
A
made a comment
COVID
based on what I
ID.
posted, and that's
A
got nothing to do
COVID.
with the
I'll just
vaccine.
write it down.
That's got nothing to do with the vaccine.
That's my point because you didn't listen. The COVID
No.
ID system that is detrimental to
Kim,
humanity.
I made a post that was about
Okay,
the COVID
here we go.
ID, and you commented on the post about the COVID ID, right? And now you're trying to backtrack and say that you're talking
No, I'm
about
not.
something totally different, right? That is exactly what you're doing.
Because you
Did you
didn't
not
listen
lead
to what
in
I had to
with
say.
did you not lead
And
in
you're
with it
still
was
not.
about what I posted, right? So let's know, because you need to start at the beginning, Kim. You can't just jump to the end and then say that that's somehow the truth. Start at the beginning. You commented on something that I posted. What I posted was about an
So
app,
apparently,
a COVID tracking ID app. That is what I posted. That is what you commented on. Now you're trying to say it's not an app. So what did you comment on? That's been in place for a long time, and again, irrelevant to the point here. You commented on something I had posted on Facebook, correct? That's where it started. So there's the foundation. Next step is you saying that you stopped that from happening, even though it's already been in place. Once again, irrelevant to the topic, Kim. If there was a judge and a mediator here, they would say like that is irrelevant to the topic, because it is. I'm bringing her back to the original point because she likes to play this game where she jumps ahead of the point and pretends like the point wasn't ever made, and then continues talking as if it's somehow relevant to a point that she skipped by, which is exactly what she's doing. She let in saying that this is her commenting on a post that I made. And I made the post about a COVID ID tracking app on the phone, which exists, which has been in place. And she told me today that she stopped that. Exactly. Okay, so you maybe stopped that. I don't think that you did. Time will tell whether or not you did, but that's still not what you said to me, Kim. What you said was, based on the post that I made, you stopped that app, but you didn't. That app actually got updated today.
All right, so moving on. I'm glad your app is still up and running, and then you can identify all of the false cases of COVID.
And I can also identify that what you said was a giant lie.
Real world proof. Let's talk about real world proof.
We just did. We just did, and you failed. So again, go continue.
Okay.
Show me some real world
proof. If you say so, we'll let your viewers decide. Either way, I just don't care, because that is the real program that everybody was running, and they would cut you off from food. Actually, Klaus, so to further prove my point, Klaus said that he was only going to give plant-based protein packages out to vaccinated persons based on the upcoming food shortage. Okay. That is in writing on Twitter. He put it out. That's Klaus with the World Economic Forum. So anyway, there's a reason for that. Okay, so now real world proof of anything. So your blog was great, right? I read it and I coordinated it with this big long chart I got over here, and that helped me figure out who was who. Okay?
Coordinating, or you copied it and you added it to a fiction.
No, I actually got this before I even met you.
Yeah, because anyone can find that online. Like
you can now.
There is a site called Team Bubba that has exampled this at nauseam.
I know, because he took it off of what I gave out.
No, they took it off of regular genealogy charts, Kim. It had nothing to do with you. That stuff was on the internet long before you ever came along and we knew what your name was.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. It's been used for, okay. Search genealogy charts right now and you will see exactly.
This is not a genealogy chart. This is a banking chart of how banks really work. Okay.
But that's not how banks really work. And people who work for banks have
really
pointed that out to you at nauseum as well. Yes.
Okay. Do me a favor. Look up, pick a bank, any bank. Pick a bank, any bank, get on Google for me, right? To prove me wrong, and look at who hosts their website. Bank of America is hosted by Azure as well, because they're connecting your biological ID to Bank of America. Look at TD Bank, who hosts TD Bank's software. Okay, it's
what
Azure.
Exactly is your point?
Who hosts Oracle software? It's Azure.
What is your point?
Anywhere in the world, go to Raiffeisen Bank, go to VTB Bank, go to Deutsche Bank, Bank of International Settlements.
What's your point?
Okay, now, okay, you can Google it. Anybody, just go ahead and Google and look up who hosts all the banking servers, and you'll see it's the same people. Okay. Now, in relation to the central banking system, are you aware that the Federal Reserve issues every country's currency allocation numbers on the planet? And De La Rue or Gaznak in Russia prints 95% of the world's currencies out of a singular location, other than US dollars, which is printed directly by the Federal Reserve.
That is, again, not true.
It's not true?
No.
Another thing everyone can Google. Go ahead and Google De La Rue. You can look it up online, and they are a currency printer. Prior to De La Rue, it was the ABC Corp. So if you look at AB Corp, not ABC, my mistake. AB Corp online, look them up in Wikipedia. You can find the information. They were formerly the printer of US currency. Now they are the printer of birth certificates and other bonds. It says it right on their website, okay?
Okay,
now,
so
if you go to De La Rue's website.
And somebody who authorized the printing, right?
I'm proving my point. You are incorrect in your statement, making the claim that every country has their own banking system. And I will tell you and prove to you, if you go to all these websites, that that is a flat out lie. Okay. That is
No,
that
you're
is a
talking
huge,
about a physical manufactured money printer that has nothing to do with the government who authorizes the printing of that money. That'd be like
okay.
saying that
Now,
iPhone
where
has a
do the
monopoly over
numbers,
all of smartphones, but they
and I'm
don't.
telling you that Federal Reserve issues all of the allocation numbers, or used to, okay, use all the allocation numbers per a contract that they had with the government of the United States and every other government for the last over 100 years. Okay, that's a fact. Now, the Federal
It's a fact that
Reserve,
is very much negated by the fact that there's at least two countries at war over the fact that you're wrong. I mean,
oh,
but
which two
continue.
countries is that?
I can't even think. That's why I said at least two countries in
Okay,
the world.
well,
Like what,
see,
what's going on in Cuba right now, even as an example. They use Canadian money.
Cuba uses, look, what's going on in Cuba has to do with the Bay of Pigs. It has nothing to do, it has to do with what was looted during the Bay of Pigs. That's a fact, in 1963.
I think that a lot of people who live in Cuba would disagree with you very strongly about
Okay.
that. But just, yeah,
Well,
continue.
I'm sure they probably would. So anyway, but that's why everybody is all angry and upset, and why the same regime has been in there for years, because he is actually working with a government, right? Now, who prints? Now, the other company that actually prints physical cash money for more than one country is Goznak in Russia. They also print Venezuelan dollars and a few other countries' dollars or currency, whatever it's called, rubles and otherwise, right? So it's on their website. You can go look it up. So if you think by any means every country has their own printing presses and they're printing their own currency, you're absolutely incorrect. Now, every bill
That's not what
that
I
is
said.
printed,
But the Canadian government decides when that money gets printed. The US government decides when that money gets printed. Whether or not the actual printer is the same is irrelevant to the conversation.
no, because the Federal
No,
Reserve,
it is.
at
Like,
least
again,
on
the
the
example
front, in the face front, has been the controlling party of all new allocations ever in existence since the advent of, well, the families behind it since the advent of money, right? But now you yourself have said you're a Rothschild, so you should know what I'm
does that have
saying.
to do with the physical printing presses, though? Because that's your
Because
argument.
every bill has an allocation number on it. It's called a serial number. Can you have a bill in your
nothing
pocket?
to do with the
I'm
point.
sure we do. I'm sure we got one here.
That's
There's a
got
number
nothing to
on
do with
there
the
that makes
point,
it a
though,
legitimate form of currency.
Yes.
That's how banking
Yes,
works.
I will concede to that. But the United States government doesn't decide when Canada prints money. The United States
No, they
government,
don't. The Federal
that
Reserve
company
does.
that you're talking about, the Federal Reserve doesn't decide when Russia prints money. Whether or not they're using the same printing press
They
is irrelevant.
absolutely do.
That's like you and I having the same phone and you trying to tell me that therefore they both have all the same information on them. They're two different phones. It's just a printing press. It's
No,
a
but all your
mechanical machine.
All your security
But the government still
certificates,
decides when that money
encryption
gets
keys,
printed.
and Pegasus is
But
on
the
your and my
government
phone,
still decides when that money gets printed, not the printing press itself.
which is
It's a
hosted
mindless
by
machine.
Azure. Just so you
It's
know, Pegasus
still
is
a
on your
mindless
phone and it's
machine.
on my phone.
You're still talking about a technology that is similar as opposed to two countries' decisions, which are totally dissimilar.
No, I'm telling you straight up that the Federal Reserve will tell Canada when and when not to print money. And they have to give them the allocation numbers to do it.
I'm
That's
very
a fact.
sorry, but that's not a fact. There's no truth to that at all.
You got my red book? It's in writing. I got it in writing.
You got it in writing from who, Kim? Yourself? Like,
Nope.
Come the fuck on. I'm sure Justin Trudeau has not written anything for you. I'm pretty sure Joe Biden's not written anything for you. So
This stuff was written before Canada was even a country, okay?
Oh my goodness. See, and I kind of knew that this would be what you did.
Before you were born.
You
What? I told the
continue
truth?
talking. No, there's no truth to what you're saying. You're making points that aren't relevant to the conversation we are having, which, yes, may be true. Yes, they all use the same printing press, but that has nothing to do with the decision making.
Okay, so if you know what how banking works, what is the ANNA system and the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency in Belgium, and what do?
They numerate money, but that is again irrelevant.
No, they
to my
don't.
point.
They have
My
nothing to
point
do with
being
numerating
that
money.
when Canada decides to print more money, like they just did, and I mean, like, again, real world evidence, we just had CERB, we just had CRB, we now have UBI coming in, and that's all Canada's decision. Do you think the USA and the Federal Reserve has allowed them to do that? Like, no, that's not the way it
Yes.
works. And Russia's doing the same thing. So is Russia taking their orders from the United States? Britain's doing the same thing. Is Britain doing it? Kenya's doing the same thing. Are Kenya taking their orders from the United States too?
Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, there
Yep.
you go, guys. There you go.
And all the
United States-
cryptocurrency
the
and
United
all the
States
cryptocurrency
controls
that's being
everything.
offered out there is to tie them to Azure and away from the Federal Reserve System, because they're two different factions and two different covens. That's why.
No.
Yes.
You just threw two words in there that have nothing to do with the way that the
Okay.
world financial system
Who hosts Prism, the Prism system?
Why
right?
does it matter?
Host it.
How is that
Azure.
relevant?
Because it will tell you if you look it up.
Why is that relevant, Kim?
Because it's involved with money and who's printing money.
That does
Who
not make it
hosts your
relevant.
central bank
That
servers?
does not make it
You
relevant.
can also Google
That
that.
does not make it relevant.
He
What
who
is
holds the
relevant to the
database
point-
wins every time. I'm telling you, if you
It's
look
not
this
even
up,
a database,
you'll
it's a
see it.
physical printing machine. It's a fucking machine, Kim. It's not
okay,
a
so
database.
is there some little guy that prints the little numbers that goes into your bank account? They are also indexed with a serial number as well. Digital dollars or digital CAD is
From
the
the
same as
respective
digital
countries
USD,
that
and they
issues
all have an allocation number in a computer system
from the
when
respective
they
country that
are
issues them.
indexed to your account.
Thank
So
you
if
for
you
proving my
transfer
point.
money from, if you transfer $1,000 from your bank to someone else's bank,
Thank you for
okay,
proving my
that
point.
is 10 notes.
Thank you for proving my point.
How did I prove your point? Because you're making no sense. Nothing you're saying is making any sense, because I'm explaining to you in detail exactly how financial systems work. And you can call any bank IT person and verify what I'm saying. I just gave everyone who's watching this right now at least 10 different things that they could Google to prove that what I'm saying is correct. The printing of the money of, for example,
Correct, but
Venezuela
irrelevant
is under the
to the point.
control of Goznak in Russia. That's a
Saying
fact.
something that is
It's
correct
on their
but irrelevant
website.
to the point is just as dishonest as lying.
Okay. All right. So now we're moving on to banking system works, one centralized source. We discussed that. I know you don't believe me, but you will find out if you go do your research, and anyone can do the research. Okay.
Lots of
There's
people
a
have done
reason why
research,
the
and that's
US
why you're getting called bullshit.
was a power center. Now let's talk about the UPU show. Okay. So the UPU show, there is a unit, right? You people all over the internet call it the Galactic Federation of Light or whatever it is. They are also a military unit. That's true. However, there's a second unit that is called the Universal Protection Unit. They are a different group of people. They've been hunting down certain people for years and years and years. And that was what led them to here. Okay. Now, further to that, there is a Universal Council, which is not the same as your Galactic Council in any way. And then the people that were living underground that you described yourself in your own blog were the World Council. Okay, that's a fact. It's just the way it is. You said it yourself. Okay, so now number two, to further this, because I wrote this down too, the savior. I am telling the entire planet that you are the one you've been waiting for. We played it in front of our last Life Force call. You are the person you've been waiting for, and you are the savior. I am not the savior. Okay, collectively as a group, right? Meaning every human on the planet, if we unite, even Bush said it in a quote, if we all united, they'd be gone tomorrow. Okay. And I know that's a fact as well. It's just the simple law of physics and kinetics. Okay. So it has to do with your energy and combining in a positive way. You know, I teach that every single week. I tell that to people every single week. I listen to people. I answer people's calls. Okay. Now, I would like some proof that I have actually visited Florida after the year 2006, when I can prove that I was there in 2006 on the sunbiz.org website, that I had a banking license that I had to go there to take a test for. I have not been there since 2006.
Well, we have Thomas
any
Williams
way-
who posted pictures of you being there. Not
Oh,
us
please
physically,
share. Can
but
you
have
screen share?
making him a birthday cake, and the two of you joked about
Thomas
it.
Williams moved to Durango, Colorado 2 years ago. And you know this, okay?
Time.
3 years ago now. You know this
At
because
the
you were
time.
talking to Chloe. at the time. Very,
Not at the time,
quite a
and this is
lot.
well documented on Team Bubba once again.
Okay. Well, Team Bubba and David Rea, the pedophile, okay,
Oh
is
yeah,
an
so you
awesome
had
reference.
FBI nonsense.
But the
I know,
pictures
I
of
heard
me
that too.
making him a birthday cake, I was actually posted it myself, and I was in and living in Durango, Colorado at the time, and I can show you the lease that
You
took
just busted
place.
yourself.
I signed a lease. I busted myself saying I'm living in Durango, Colorado, and that I made a birthday
You
cake
posted the pictures.
for a
You
friend.
took the pictures of him in his
I
home.
took the picture of him in my living room in Durango, Colorado,
At his house.
for my friend whose birthday it was. Is it
It
wrong
was
to
at
make a
his
birthday
house.
cake for a friend?
It was at his house.
No, that's my house.
No, it's not.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Let's take this computer upstairs, shall we? We could do that. Want to do that? Want me to walk you upstairs to my kitchen so you can see?
Sure. If that's what you need to do, then sure. But again, like this is
Okay.
once again,
The
this
picture
had already
that
been
is
documented
posted.
before today.
Okay, wait a minute. I just need to.
It's something you were called out on at least a year ago.
You're going to take the mic with you. Yeah, this is a little bit of a process. Hang on a second. Okay, here we go. We're downstairs in my basement. Where is my
Nothing
office?
like it.
That's correct, because I haven't made it upstairs yet. Walking upstairs because my kitchen is not in my basement. So let's go. Does this view, okay, it's a little messy right now, guys. Does this view look familiar behind Thomas? Why, yes, it does. And the picture I took of the same cake was on this counter right here. And I am in Durango, Colorado. And I'm not in Arizona.
I mean, again,
Again, you're
the
wrong.
pictures exist. You
Again,
can
you're wrong.
deny it all you'd like.
That's 2 times you're
But,
wrong.
No, I haven't been wrong yet, actually.
You can look at the picture. So for those of you that are watching this and you're referring to the picture that Shane mentioned, you can see that that is the same kitchen. Never been to Florida,
You've never been to Florida.
not since 2006.
Okay.
Never been to Thomas Williams' home in Florida.
So you've got 1 point now. Like, well, I'll give you that point. All right.
Oh,
so you've
thanks.
got 1. Now you're like,
And I
10
just
to 1.
proved to all your viewers who are willing to Google my information about the banking system being centrally controlled that yes, why yes, everybody prints everybody else's money. And De La Rue prints money. That's what they do.
Once again, they don't decide all the other countries when they print money. Whether or not they're using the same printing
The
press
Federal
is
Reserve does.
completely irrelevant.
Until recently, the Federal Reserve does.
No,
They do. The only thing they don't
recently.
have to approve is credit lines.
Until recently, eh?
Yeah,
Like,
until recently. The
how
Federal Reserve
recent?
does not approve it anymore.
How recent?
Contract expired, 99-year agreement with a corporate, an infinite agreement with a corporation is 99 years, 2012.
Again, there's like a million different ways
And-
the real world.
And
proves
just so
that
you know,
incorrect.
there is a
Like,
book
a
out
million.
there called The Creature from Jekyll Island, which will tell you all the families involved. It will tell you the creation of the Federal Reserve money system and how it's a centralized printing money source for every country in the world, including Canada and China and Russia. And then if you know about money, the Association of Numerical Numbering Agency issues bonds. They put a number to every bond, not to currency. Now, tied to the ANNA system is something called the XN system. Now, Shane, why don't you explain to all your viewers, since you know how the financial system works for sure, what the XN system in Belgium is and what it does.
I can't do that because I don't pay much attention to that stuff.
Okay, so why don't you just
I've been
listen
pretty
to the
honest about
expert
that
for a
for a long
second,
time.
okay?
The expert. All right, bring me an expert and I'll listen to them. Because
Okay.
I've run this by people who work in banks and people who are experts, and they just laugh. Like, they're like, how does she think in a million years that anything she's saying would be understood or believed by somebody who actually works in banking and understands how money works?
I
That's
don't
why
need them.
every person, just about every person who's interviewed you has eventually come to their senses and been like, yeah, that makes no sense.
Okay, now
And
the
this
money
is the
that was
other thing.
donated to
Why
Speak
have you fallen
Project
out? Why have you
didn't
fallen
go
out
to
of
me.
reorganization before Speak
I've moved on from your incompetence, so we're just going to the next section here.
Incompetence, my
Donated
reason.
money for 4 or
You've
5
moved
years.
on from making sense and you've moved on from reason, have you?
Well, because it's just silly to listen to you. So do you want to listen to the rest of this? I'm answering all your questions.
I don't.
This is a
You haven't answered any
deposition.
of my questions.
When I'm speaking and you're talking, then you're not supposed to talk, because if this was a real court, Shane, you would be thrown out.
No, actually, I wouldn't be. You would be, because you continue to do it even though I've asked you not to. And at this point in time, we are in the discovery or back and forth process where we can speak over each other if that's what we choose to do.
Oh, okay. So I can do that next time you're talking. Gotcha. Okay,
No,
finishing
Kim,
the rest of your questions.
Again, you have a real problem with progression of things, don't you? You have a problem with the foundation of your argument being completely null and void. And then you're stacking all this other shit like it somehow validates the fact that your foundation.
I'm proving it to people. I'm giving you proof. I'm telling them to do their own research.
I mean, I'm going to leave that up to the people in the chat, but at the same time, I don't think you're proving anything to anybody. I think you're proving the fact that you're really good at talking in circles and you're really good at evading points. And you're really
good. I took notes on all your points.
You're really good at ignoring the fact that
so I could write it all down.
Your foundation,
make sure that I had all the answers.
And that other
donated money for 4 or 5 years without delivering a dime back. Now, first of all, I personally never said to those people that I was going to deliver money back. Never, not one time. Number 2, 4 or 5 years ago, it was the People's Club. What the People's Club was supposed to do, of which you received money from and a laptop, and I did not.
I received a loan from a personal friend. That's what I received.
Okay, well, it came from the People's Club, just so you know, who needed help.
Then that's his problem, right? Then therefore he stole money from the People's Club and he donated it to me. Don't you see that? Like you just proved the point as well.
I'm not here to validate Thomas's things. I'm here to talk about why the actual origin of the People's Club actually existed. It had to do with tax diversion, okay? That's why it existed. So if you make a donation to a 501 or a charitable organization that's not a family foundation, right? That you can deduct that to some degree, depending on your income level and all of that, because it's so convoluted, right? The whole system. But you can donate, you can deduct that on your taxes. So you're going to pay that dollar to the IRS or you're going to pay it to yourself. Now, it was supposed to be a fund where people came together and they voted on what they were going to use it for. Everybody talks about democracy and how it's so great. So why don't you all get together and vote on what your money is going to be used for? Because you can't vote, actually, no one cares what you vote about when it comes to your taxpayer dollars, okay? Nobody cares. That's a fact. So your taxpayer dollars, at least a small amount of it, would have gone to something where you did have a say. So it was helpful to give people a voice. I did not take that money and I did not promise anybody any money back. That's what the People's Club was supposed to be. If Thomas told somebody something different, well, then that's their call. Okay, that was his call. I didn't. So that's number 2. That was another one on your list here. Okay, so I think that covers everything in your initial deposition. Next.
I mean, I'm still standing on the same place that you've not said anything to, fix the foundation of everything else. Like, again, how did you get to where you are? It was
okay, Shane, let me ask you a question. There's at least...
No, I was in the middle of asking you a question. How did you get to where you are?
How did I get to where I am? Because I'm smarter than you.
Okay, that's a very valid and obviously true answer. How did you get to where you are, Kim? Where did it start?
I've already told this story at least 10 times.
No, I've already told this story. I'm asking you to tell the story right now. Where did you start? It started with not being vetted by me. It started with Thomas backing you up. And if it wasn't for either of those things, where would you be now?
I would probably be doing the exact same thing I was doing because I was doing it before I met you, dear. It's just that I wasn't a YouTube sensation, nor do I care to be.
No, you weren't, though.
And I don't want to be. You do. I don't.
Once again, I do. I'm the one who's backed out of this 3 or 4 times. Well, you've continued to move on to new groups to
Yeah, every time
reestablish
someone tries to
yourself in
question
this.
you.
Nobody has ever made me back away from trying to question me. When people question me, I do podcasts with them. That's what I do. Or I let them call me one-on-one. That's what I do. And there's, again, 10 years of evidence of that. And what have you done?
What have I done? What have you done?
Again, Kim, I just
You've
asked
talked
you a
some
question.
stuff on YouTube. You wrote a cool little blog.
And I don't claim
has
to
a
be
lot of
doing
truth to it,
anything like you're
must
claiming
say.
to do it. Do I? Do I make
But what are
money
you doing?
off of this? Do I tell people that I'm in charge of this thing that's going to save them? No, I don't do any of that. So why is
I
that
don't
even
tell them that
trying
either.
to make it- Okay.
I tell them
so
that I am in charge of a system, right?
I
Which
don't
is
do that
much
either.
more
I
than
tell her that I do
financial.
do that. So there you go. And this is
No,
gonna
I
stop in
don't.
circles, Kim.
That's not what I said.
To be honest, like
Your
I
listening
see-
skills suck.
my listening skills suck. Your reading skills suck, and your ability to even comprehend what you've actually just came out of your own mouth seems to not register in your mind, because you actually just said it and then turned around and said that you said something different.
I said, I don't tell people I'm the savior. That's what I said. Then I followed it up with another statement was, yes, I do have a system that I run. That is true. I do. And Thomas Williams has seen it. Tank over here has seen it. Other people have seen it. Lisa on our team has seen it. She's been here to visit. Tank's been here to visit for a while. Everybody's seen it. It's not something you put on the internet. I'm sorry, but you don't.
No,
Nobody
you carry it
does
around
that.
as a fucking tattered piece of paper in your hands. That makes much more sense.
Because I don't care if that gets posted on the internet.
Okay. But I mean, you wouldn't
The
do
other
that,
one is a
so-
security issue.
I mean, I knew that this conversation would get to this point because.
And you talk about
I've been
AI
doing this for a long
yourself
time.
in your blog. I mean, you wrote about it. You wrote about loosh farming. You wrote about all this
Again,
stuff that
irrelevant.
exists. You've
What
talked
I'm
about it on
saying
multiple
is-
shows. I mean, many. You went on Thomas's show twice. You gave him an update. You've been on Carrie Cassidy. I don't even know where else you've been. You got your own thing, Whole World Laughing. You have discussions about your experiences in the underground bases and all of these things, right? Do you not?
Yeah. And I don't
Okay.
charge people
So
money
you
for it.
know that there's an AI system that basically ran planet Earth, right? You
I don't
wrote it
charge people
down.
money for
It's in
it.
the blog. You can
I
look
don't
it up.
charge people
Anyone who's
money for
watching.
it. I don't charge people money for it.
I don't charge people money for it either. The donations that came into Speak Project did not come to me personally. Okay. Those donations went in to help start the news channel, and 99% of it went there.
All based on your fiction about being Eve, Kim.
No, not really.
Yes.
All
Yes.
for people wanting a real news channel with mad intel that is nothing to do with what they're gurgitating on TV.
Okay. Speak
That's
Project
why people
aside,
did it.
because I've never looked at the Speak Project at all. But again, going back to the foundation.
The Speak Project
That is-
morphed into United News Network.
Once again, going
And you
back to
talk
the
about my
foundation.
financial video, but you say you've never seen Speak Project, which means you've never watched the financial system.
Once
And if
again,
you
going
knew
back to
how
the
looshing
foundation.
works, and then the triangles and everything make perfect sense because money is energy.
Once again, going back to the foundation,
Yeah.
right?
What
If it wasn't,
foundation?
THI, the
Of my
People's
story?
Fund, Thomas Williams. Yeah, the foundation of your story.
I'm backing up everything I said in that financial video right now with Googling. Have a good time Googling. People can figure it out. I mean, I don't know if you know how to use that or not, but if you do, I would suggest you do the same, and you'll see actually what's really happening. So you knew at the upper echelon, if you were in the underground bases, right, in the utopia, you weren't even talking about the dumbs, right? You're talking about a whole nother network that exists on planet Earth, right? Hello?
Sorry, I was reading the chat. Because at this point, yeah, I've tuned out on you because you're just doing what you always do.
Okay. All right. If you're done, I'll be
Again,
done.
I've
We'll be
asked for
done.
you to talk about the foundation, which you once again you've completely ignored. And
What
once
foundation?
again, the foundation of your entire story. Why are people interested in what you have to say?
That's not the foundation. It should.
because I tell the
Hank,
truth.
shush,
Shane.
dude. Do I have another person in the world telling me and feeding me in my ear what I should be saying right now?
Sure,
No,
you're
so you
reading
can
an
be
entire
quiet.
chat right now.
I'm reading a chat, but is that a person in the room with me telling me what I should say to you? No, it's not. I'm reading the chat because it's funny. It's actually quite
No, he's just
hilarious
getting irritated with you. That's
because
all.
no, there's people in the room that like I've never seen any of these names before that are like calling me a Draco and calling me names and everything else, and everyone else is
Well,
just
you
quiet.
actually said that
Well,
in one of
where
your
is her perk?
interviews with
That's
Carrie Cassidy
great, but again,
years ago.
irrelevant. Again, irrelevant. Everybody else just wants proof from you.
It's irrelevant. Why don't you prove it, Shane? Prove you're a Draco. Prove you're a Rothschild. Where's the proof? You said this.
Once
So
again,
you're
am I
telling
charging
me
people
I'm
money?
lying to people, but
Does
yet
my-
you are in fact the one that's telling stories you can't prove, because
Oh
I
my
just
God.
proved and backed up
You
everything
didn't
that
prove
came out of
anything
my
about your
mouth.
stories. No, you didn't. Because how does that prove that you're Eve? And how does that prove that you have any kind of contact with any of these people?
Well,
that doesn't prove any of that stuff. That proves that you've researched shit online and you've followed things that you've read in books. That's all that proves. All the
Where
rest
is
of the
that in a book?
foundation of your story cannot be
Where is
proved.
the XM
And I'm
system in a
asking you to
book?
at least give us some reasonable proof to the foundation of your story. Because without the foundation of your story, it doesn't matter how fucking smart you are, Kim.
Okay, well,
Without the
where would
foundation
you
of your
like?
story, you
So
don't
what you're saying
exist
is you
within
want me
that
to go get
community.
a DNA test and compare it. That's what you'd like me to do of my person, not of my soul, because your source code is your real DNA detector. So what would you like to do? We can do that with a biofeedback machine. Is that what you want?
Once again, Kim, I'm talking about the foundation of your story, right?
And once
I
again,
give you credit.
Shane, your
You're a smart
question
lady.
was, how are you related to mitochondrial Eve, right? So my answer to your question is, we can find the mitochondrial Eve information, DNA information, and cross-reference it with the
Eve
one that I
is
will
a
do for
fictional
you.
character out of the Bible, which was a fiction, so therefore, no, you fucking can't, because no such
It's
thing
called
exists.
mitochondrial Eve, not the biblical character, Shane, the one with the 36 strands of DNA, the woman from Africa. That's what I'm talking about. See, this is what I'm saying. You're kind of looking a little bit weak here, really.
Well, no, I'm just calling on logic and reason, and you're talking in fantasy land. That's what's happening here.
Okay, well,
And yeah, I have no
anyone watching
callback
this would
for your
like to
fantasy
Google
land.
mitochondrial Eve and see if it's any way related. It's a scientific terminology used to define one of the original humans on Earth. So you can look that up. You can Google that. Yep. So with that being said, it is now, I've been doing this now for what, an hour? Do you have anything else you want to ask?
No, I think you've proven your point. You've proven my
All right.
point as well.
Have a
And,
great day, everyone. We can leave now. Oh, you get it over there. I was like, I'm fighting you for the mouse.
Sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that pretty much sums that up. Not at once did you address the foundation, and without that foundation, nobody's going to be listening to you, and therefore you wouldn't have gotten any of those donations. And it doesn't matter that you can describe the various processes within the financial system if you're not the person that you're selling yourself to be, and you're still not. So I'm going to leave it at that. There's a lot of things in the chat there from people that I think is kind of funny. This was never meant to be an interview. This was about me calling out the fact that her entire performance is based on things that are not true. And her inability to even address or acknowledge that makes the point I wanted to make. So I'm fine with leaving it there. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And I'm sorry that we wasted your time. But once again, someone needed to say something about this nonsense. There's a lot of people out there donating money to somebody who shouldn't be donated money to. So it's not how gurus operate. Well, yeah, it is how gurus operate. There's cult members, Kim's cult members in there, attacking me personally, as opposed to looking at the reason that this has happened. Without me vetting her, without Thomas Williams propping her up, that tank dude never would have heard her name. End of story. I gave her every chance to address that. She refused. That's all I really wanted. So hope you guys all have a wonderful